All right, parents, here we go again. It's the Ask Dr. Tony episode. This is the Experience Miracles podcast, and I'm your host, Dr. Tony Ebel, an expert in pediatrics, neurodevelopmental disorders, and drug-free, nervous system-focused healthcare. On this weekly episode, I'll be addressing the top questions on every parent's mind. If there's one thing we love and welcome, it's parents who never stop learning, asking the hard questions, and advocating for your kiddos like none other. So get ready for some real talk, real-life clinical and parenting experience, and real easy to understand answers that will help your family take action and get to that next level of health and healing. You ask, I answer. Let's dive into today's episode. Okay, Experience Miracles community, let's talk about sleep, specifically for kids who struggle the most with it. And if kids are struggling with sleep, then the whole family is. And man, it just compounds into so many challenges. And we'll talk about that. But we really want to talk about, with this Q&A episode, the question came in, what are the best strategies to help my child with autism improve sleep quality? And I really want to open that up. We're going to focus a lot on autism and how much of a struggle sleep is. Then we're going to turn that conversation to transformation and say, what do we need to do to get sleep to high quality amounts and literally the actual quality of sleep, the restorative healing side of sleeping. How do we get to that? Because it is the first main move to experiencing miracles. Seriously, if there's two things I could talk about on this podcast all day, every day, that are the hidden in plain sight, must have moves to healing, transformation, and experiencing miracles, it is sleep and it is poop. So cue the sleep emoji, three little Z's, cue, or the little guy in the bed. Yes, I'm talking verbally emojis. If you read any of our articles or our social, you know we love emojis because we're a pediatric world, right? And anyways, we're talking about sleep, we're talking about poop, and we're really going to get into it with autism and kids with epilepsy and cerebral palsy and sensory challenges and ADHD and anxiety. It's those kids and therefore those families who struggle the most with sleep. What I want you to know right out of the gates with this one is, let's not talk about sleep hacks. Let's not talk about sleep tips, and let's not talk about sleep routines and hygiene. Let's talk about why the nervous system, the brain, and the body can't calm down enough to get to sleep, which is line number one in the proverbial neurological sand that the brain and body needs to do. We need to be able to calm down enough, hopefully fast enough, right? Pretty quick, pretty smooth to fall asleep. Well, then there's a whole nother set of lines further into this neurological sand, which is getting into deep, restful, REM, reparative, restorative, development, and healing generating sleep. So there's a lot to this conversation, and we're not just going to give you the same old sleep tips. Hey, try this essential oil, make sure you get some blackout shades, keep to the same routine. I can give you those. Maybe I'll just rip through the bullet points at the very end, but let's actually talk about why so many kids struggle with sleep. It's because they struggle with nervous system dysfunction foundationally, significantly. And when we look at this sleep conversation through the lens of neurology, not just routines and hacks and supplements and essential oils and so forth, we can really see, okay, that's how we fix it. That's how we get things significantly better for our family. So remember we talked here, I could talk about two things, sleep and poop, all day long when I do my job. Like if you were on my hip taking care of patients, I'm talking about, yes, it's all about the nervous system, but when I'm checking in on the initial healing stages of a patient with autism or tough neurological conditions, or actually even colic and sick kids, I'm asking, how are they sleeping? How are they pooping? And then the third and the fourth question are, how are they breathing? Okay, so respiratory and sort of immune function. We check in on that. And really the fourth one, and I'm going to put it forth here as I kick it out and I talk about it on this podcast episode. But when you really understand how the brain and the body works, the fourth one is, how are they moving? How's their body doing? And when you hear me say that, you're like, what the heck is he talking about? Well, it's a lot easier when you are a neurologically focused, neuro movement, neuromotor trained expert to know what I mean by that. Because it's the hardest one to figure out, is how intricately connected the body, all the muscles, the big muscles, the little muscles, the spinal muscles, you name it, every muscle of the body, the neuro neurosensory motor system is the most overlooked, most important system to get calm, to get better connected, and to get healing interventions directed at in order to get better sleep. We're going to talk about the gut next, but we're going to talk about the neurosensory motor system first. And the gut is actually a muscle anyways. So even when we're talking about digestion, we're actually talking about neurosensory motor function and the fact that if our child's neurosensory motor system is full of tension and full of confusion and full of exhaustion and full of dysregulation, the body, which is all we're going to call it here today for this episode, when you literally physically lay down to go to sleep, or when your child physically lays down in bed to go to sleep, if their body cannot get comfortable, they cannot fall asleep, step one, and they can't get into deep, restorative, reparative, developmental, and healing generating sleep. Let's use us as an example. If you go through your day and your neck is killing you, or it's your shoulder, or it's your middle back, or it's your low back, or you've even injured your foot or your knee or your hand or your wrist, pick any part of the body or multiple parts of the body. If you have physical tension, discomfort, aching, soreness, spasm, pain, anywhere physically, how's your sleep? How does it feel to physically settle down and get to sleep? It's extremely difficult to fall asleep with a headache. It's extremely difficult to fall asleep with tension in your neck and your shoulders. And right now, a lot of you moms and dads are like, okay, now he's speaking my language. Now, I thought we were going to talk about sleep and my child and kids. Now we're talking about me. It's the same thing with autism, ADHD, anxiety, and sensory issues in kids. No, thankfully, what we know about neurology is that the pain receptors for most kids are not developed and functioning at the same level for a child that they are for adults. So it's not exactly that your child with autism is experiencing physical pain the way you would think about it or feel it, and that's keeping them from going to sleep. But it's closer than you think. What it is, it's sensory pain. It's sensory noise. It's neuromotor sensory tension, confusion, asymmetry, spasm. And so when the body, which if we look at a child traditionally, especially if they're level 2 or level 3 of autism, if we just pause as we listen to this and we think, if I look at them, does their body look relaxed at any moment of the day? Do they look relaxed when they fall asleep at all? And if they're wound up, raging bulls, full of tension, that means their entire nervous system is stuck in fight or flight. What that's going to do is it's going to take their muscular system and it's going to leave the majority of their neurosensory motor system wound up, stuck tight. We call that subluxation. Where is going to be the worst of that? In their neck and in their shoulders and in their spine and in these areas that they love what? Big hugs, massage, sensory brushing. And what a lot of families know is, man, in order to get my kiddo to go to sleep, I've got to get them moving. I've got to massage. I've got to rub their back. I got to give them a big hug. I got to give them a weighted blanket. I got to almost kind of like, or they have to sleep with me, literally compressed and curled and convoluted and twisted up, literally on top of me. Why? Because by getting that sensory proprioceptive mechanoreceptive input, that physical touch, that physical sensory seeking, squeezing, deep pressuring, it's the thing they need to actually be able to shut down and try and short circuit that physical tension that their body is putting into their brain. So this is why things like neurologically focused adjustments focus there first. So the reason that sleep, I always make the joke this way, by far, and it's not even close, the first thing to get better when we're helping a child heal, not treating, not curing, helping a child heal, neurologically focused, inside out, getting to the root cause through chiropractic, helping a child with autism or any other neurological challenge start to heal. The very first thing to turn on in the vast majority of the cases is sleep improvements. They're able to fall asleep faster, stay asleep longer, and get into deeper, more restorative, more healing layers of sleep. If we continue to, which is what this episode is for, deconstruct how does that happen, it's because our adjustments working through the neuromotor, the neurofascial, the neuromotor system is what the body is what's holding all the tension, keeping the brain activated in that excessively aroused, overstimulated, sympathetic state when it should be downshifting and downregulating into a more vagal nerve tone, parasympathetic rest, relaxation, fall asleep, and get into restorative sleep mode. If the body is full of this tension, full of this subluxation and this sensory motor noise, to a child, the brain almost perceives that as the physical pain and tension that we have as adults. And isn't it the same if life is crazy? Isn't it the same if you're full of a lot of emotional tension and your thoughts are just racing and you can't calm down your brain, can't calm down your body? And we'll get to digestion next. We're going to talk a lot about the gut with this one too. But the gut is second in importance to the body. And so when we get input and adjustments into that neurosensory motor system, and we decrease that physical tension, and we unwind your child literally, physically with our adjustments, they're light, they're gentle, they're easy, and they're so effective. It makes sense that the brain needs the body to literally relax physically as we go to fall asleep and stay asleep. It makes sense that sleep improves. And I always ask parents to not only look for this and expect this, but we get into the weeds with this. And I say, hey, I know just a week or two into care, your child with autism is sleeping a whole lot better. What does it look like? And they're like, oh my gosh, for the first time in their life, when we go into bed, they actually want to go in there. They actually lay down. Their whole body relaxes. They look peaceful instead of tense and always moving. And that is where the sleep disturbance first sets up shop. It's within the physical neurosensory motor system first. So to improve sleep quality, we've got to get those interventions like the adjustments, like the sensory motor movement therapies, rhythmic rocking, deep pressure, fascial release work. We got to get into all of the supportive care that stimulates proprioception, stimulates vagal nerve tone and vestibular input, and calms the brain by releasing that stuck sympathetic subluxation tension. You gotta fix that first, which is why, if you were to see our results on our surveys, literally 85 to 90% of our patients across the board, not just autism, stressed parents, colicky babies, teenagers with anxiety, it's almost 100% of our patients experience improvements in quality of sleep within the first month or two of their care plan. What else is out there? Name one supplement, name one essential oil, name one app you can download on it, name one noise machine, blackout shades. The world right now, we're a ring, whoop, right? We're all trying to track our sleep, rightfully so. There's nothing more important to health. Like the basics of health are worth all the Bitcoin in the world. We try and get all fancy, and if we could just sleep, if we could just poop, and if we could just move easier, everybody would be healthier. Neurologically, immunologically, gastroenterologically, everything. If we could just do those basics of health better than we do today. And the world is spending billions of dollars on trying to help kids, families, people sleep better. And I just got to cut right to it with this one. If all those people just got adjusted, guess what they would experience first and most? Improvements in sleep. What does that add up to for other sort of healing advantages? Just everything under the sun comes from that. All right. What's the second thing we got to do to get our kids with autism and neurodevelopmental or neurosensory challenges, sleeping better. So fix the body first. I don't even like saying it that way. That you can tell I like saying neurosensory motor system and vagal nerve tone and all the nerdy words. But if you want to simplify it, I always told you on this one, I'll be a neurological nerd and I'll be an Iowa farm kid at the same time. We got to get the body better to get the brain to relax and fall asleep. And you can literally physically see this when these adjustments and these improvements kick in. Your child just physically relaxes, and you can see all that muscle tension and nerve tension fade away. And guess what comes on the other side of that? Vastly improved sleep. Now you can see that on the outside. That's why I want to say that one more time. You can actually see their body getting more relaxed, their shoulders not being so wound up, their belly not being so distended and full of tension, their eyes relaxing, their facial muscles relaxing. Like, you can actually see kids physically relax and unwind as they get access to things and interventions like chiropractic. What you can't see happening is the same thing happening on the inside with the gut. The esophagus, the stomach, the small intestine, the large intestine, the colon, those are all muscles. So I could literally have the same conversation we just had for the last 10 to 15 minutes and just apply it to what's called the smooth muscles instead of which are on the inside, which are the digestive tract, versus the muscles on the outside, which we can all see and have voluntary control of, which are called the skeletal or the sensory motor. So the gut and the brain are in constant communication. So what if the gut is all wound up? When our children, and they are with autism, stuck in sympathetic dominance, it's the same thing as saying they have interference and suppression of their parasympathetic vagal nerve system. That leads to every muscle of the body being much more likely to be wound up, stuck, and tense. When we apply it to the digestive tract, the very first thing the gut relies on for good gut function is motility. Those muscles on the inside need to move in what's called a peristaltic, which is just this wave, this continuous, consistent wave of getting food that came in digested. So it goes, we chew it, we swallow it, we get it through the esophagus, we get it through the middle digestive system, we get it through the lower digestive system. I'll keep it super simple. But overall, the digestive system, first and foremost, is a muscle. And we need to get that part, that autonomic system, that involuntary system, all controlled by the vagus nerve and the parasympathetic system. We've got to tap into that to get the gut to relax. If a child is not sleeping, I automatically assume either A, it's a subluxation causing challenges on the outside. That's the first category we went through. So the skeletal muscles, and there's physical sensory tension in that child's body that's causing them to not sleep. Or B, it's on the inside, and subluxation and sympathetic dominance and neuroinflammation are getting in the way of gut health. So much so that here's the story with this one. Here's how the gut messes with sleep. The gut is supposed to shut down and metaphorically go to sleep itself during sleep. If the gut is still activated and trying, because it's inefficient and it can't do its job, quote unquote, during the day, guess what? Work, we'll call it for this analogy, spills over into the night. The gut still got his laptop open and he's like, I got to get this work done that I didn't get done today because my digestive function is so limited that digestion stays activated during night. Well, because the gut and the brain are connected, if the gut is still active and it's still doing things, that will disrupt sleep. That will definitely, even if a child is kind of quote unquote asleep on the outside, they don't get into those deep, restful REM sleep cycles on the inside because it really keeps the nervous system and the neurogut wound up, decrease peristalsis, and increase inflammation and irritation. So if increased tension of the gut and increased inflammation inside the digestive system can mess with sleep, that also means that not only working on the body to decrease this neuromuscular tension outside and inside would be a good thing to help improve sleep. So that's adjustments and the body work again. But we also really want to address in full digestive induced neuroinflammation. What a nerdy way to say it, right? And those of you that listen to the podcast all the time, you are used to that. So on the inside, if there's a lot of inflammation and irritation, the gut is going to stay stuck in this activation mode, and it's going to interfere with sleep. So go all the way back to that sequence. We got to get rid of the inflammation. Yes, chiropractic and bodywork can help do that in an amazing way. So can cleaning up the diet and adding certain supplements. There are a lot of kiddos, and we'll go into, we've done episodes about this. I really want to do the whole episode again because I don't want to just say food intolerances, food sensitivities, and food allergies or environmental allergies, but especially food ones. We'll leave it to that for this conversation and say, most kids with autism just have them. They're always going to have them. There's nothing you can do about them. I actually really want you, and I'll have the team link the article to our food intolerances article in the show notes. There's a whole lot more to the story. Remember, we're really obsessed with root foundational cause on this podcast. And so further into this is, hey, if a child has certain food intolerances and food sensitivities, you got to ask the question, why? Why can't they digest that food? Why can't they handle that food? Why do they have the intolerance or have the allergy? Not necessarily today's podcast, but we did do a podcast about that. We do have an article about that. But until that's fully healed, which is what those other pieces of content we'll talk about and help you figure out how to do that. If your child currently has food sensitivities and food intolerances, if they had those foods that day, or sometimes even within the couple days before, it will mess with their sleep. So one of the best things you can do to improve sleep for your child after working on the body and the neurosensory motor system is to really dive deep into the gut and say, are there certain foods that are offensive and creating inflammation with my child? And you can figure that out through some food sensitivity and food intolerance testing and stool mapping and so forth, because that will keep the gut awake at night, and that'll keep your child awake at night, and that'll keep you awake at night. The other thing you can do is you can then additionally, kind of down this same lane, you can add supplements that increase digestive motility, increase digestive absorbability, increase digestive elimination and detoxification capacity. So magnesium glycinate, Epsom salt baths, gentle probiotics, and a few other supplements. Again, I won't make this a whole supplement episode either, but I know those are questions you guys are having on a regular basis. So we will continue to bring back our experts like Ali Miller and Jordan Rubin and Dr. Josh Axe and others and get into those conversations. And we'll link a few things in the show notes as well. But there are some supplements and some diet changes you can make that very much help calm the gut, increase its motility, increase its ability to absorb things, increase its ability to eliminate and get rid of things so it doesn't become all backed up, ticked off, and inflamed and get in the way of sleep. But I also know this. Let's go back through this order. Let's simplify what we just said. Step 1, fix the body. Step 2, fix the gut. You can't fix the gut if you don't fix the body first. And I know I'm closing this one down in my Iowa farmer terminology. Fixing the body means if there's tension, if there's subluxation, if there's sympathetic dominance and vagus nerve dysfunction anywhere within that neurospinal system, birth trauma, maternal distress, childhood falls, toxins can trigger this. You've got to get the tension out of the body. And again, that's the simplest way I can say it. I don't even like saying it that simply, but I'm providing contrast to how it's different on the outside, the neurosensory motor system, from the inside, the neurogastro smooth muscle system. Because I just know that so many of you families with autism have already gone to the nines with all the food intolerance testing, all the food allergy testing, all the stool mapping. You're literally barely feeding your child anything. You're on a massively restrictive diet. You keep those foods away like the plague, and you're probably giving them 10, 20, 30 supplements that are supposed to improve their gut health, increase motility, decrease inflammation, and increase detoxification. And you're spending thousands of dollars in this diet, supplementation, functional, better brain health through the gut world. And if you have not got around the corner and seen gut health, sleep, and then everything that comes on the other side of good sleep, which is neurological healing and neurological development, if you haven't seen that work yet, you got to go back to step number 1. That's a dead giveaway that the tension isn't in the gut primarily, foundationally, it's in the neurospinal system and the body first and most, because number one on my list here, getting that neurosensory motor system calmed, most often takes care of the gut too. Because guess what? The second most common thing that parents write down on the paperwork that they say, hey, this got significantly better early and often for the vast majority of our patients too. Digestion, pooping, going to bed, trying new foods, getting rid of indigestion, getting rid of dysbiosis, getting rid of constipation. A lot of times, neurologically focused chiropractic adjustments fix that all on their own too. It's when children really have a lot of inflammation, really have a lot of challenges with their microbiome and their gut, that we need to go down the roads additionally of diet changes, supplements, detoxes, and so forth. But don't do it first. If you can, do it in addition to fixing the other primary foundational issues. Okay. I told you I'd bring them up. We are talking about sleep, so it's good to go through this. It's just those first two things, getting the body better, getting pooping better. That's the whole story with getting sleep better. Those are the two things that throw off 90 to 95% of our cases. The other 5 to 10%, most families have already done this stuff, so it's like, there's not a lot of other room there to see improvement. But let's just review sleep routines. Remember, let's say it one more time. Sleep routines and hacks and strategies only work after the nervous system has been balanced, restored, and is set back to regulation and optimal function, okay? So the main thing with sleep hygiene that I really point out to a lot of our families first is just consistency. You want to have the same kind of bedtime to wake times. Really try and have consistency in your schedule. The younger your kiddos are, the more sleep they need, the more you got to protect that bedtime. Make life boring. Get to bed early. When? Every single night, consistently, religiously, even on the weekends. When you have kids, boom, bam, you are automatically the most boring person on earth. And I mean it. The other thing I try and always say on the podcast is, hey, let us share not only the neuroscience, let me just share some of the real life parenting hacks, tips, strategies that have worked for us. We had kids early, and then we became old early. I'm telling you, and I just want to kind of paint the picture in my real goofy dad way here. I just love how much for our family, how much it worked. Meaning we committed to our kids' health more than anything else by a million miles throughout these last 18 years and ongoing, right? My kids are now 18, 16, 14, and 11. Or is Elena 13? Yeah, somewhere in there, 13, 14. I got the first two accurately. Give me some grace on the second two, okay? Born in spring. Love you, baby girl. So with that amount of time and that amount of reps, if there's one thing that I can tell you, my family, our friends, and others always gave us grief on. It's like, are you guys really going home already? Are you really not coming to this thing? No, it starts at 7 and we start bedtime around 6:30 so our kids can literally actually be in bed at 7. Because then when they're little, they ask us to read them 462 books. And I've talked about this on the podcast before, but if you read the Berenstain Bears, those little suckers take a long time to get to their moral character building point. And I would always try and read my kids Little Critter. It's a parenting hack /joke/listen. It's real. Berenstain Bears, they belabored the point. It's longer for you as a parent to get out of the room and, begin your evening of what are you going to do? You're going to go to bed. You're old. It's good for your nervous system too. But Little Critter, I really love that guy. Mercer Mayer, is that who wrote it? Shout out to you, my friend, for creating great, engaging books that get to the point real quick. Point being, get your kids to bed early always. If you want to prioritize your kids' health, then the place to start that most people think is their nutrition. The place to start to make sure that your kids are the healthiest kids on the planet, and especially with autism and neurological challenges, meaning we got to heal. Well, then you need health on extra. Prioritize the health of their nervous system. If you see that and you go, okay, that resonates, that's what we want to do. We're going to prioritize nervous system regulation, nervous system healing, and nervous system health in this household, in this family. That goes not just right to, hey, chiropractic and these things are awesome for us. That goes to sleep. By far, the most important thing for nervous system, brain-based health, development, healing is sleep. So when you can protect bedtime, when you can get bedtime to be early, and when you can make sure that bedtime is consistent and there's no screens, there's just calming, compression, consistent routines. Yes, use lavender oils. Yes, take magnesium at nighttime if you want, after dinner with your kiddos. Absolutely do the things within the routine that help improve sleep. I just want you to know that there's nothing more important than neurological health for our kids, especially those with autism. And if you want the cheat code, the hidden in plain sight hack, it's sleep is everything. Early, consistent bedtimes always, even on the weekends. And so our family and our friends and everybody was like, that is the most boring family we know. Well, if being the most boring family other people know, go with being the most healthy, neurologically, well-rested, well-connected, most regulated family, we'll take that all day long. Now, last hack on this in overtime. If you do use supplements to support sleep for your children, I am a big fan of everything up until melatonin. And look at melatonin. It's not a medication necessarily, but it behaves a little bit more so on that side of the fence than other supplements like magnesium and using essential oils and deep pressure, massage, sensory, compression. I would much rather you Epsom salt baths. I would much rather you use those things to their fullest and save melatonin for the last resort. And some families, their kids are going to struggle so much that for a season, maybe you do use melatonin, but it can become quite addictive, and everybody's nervous system, from a child to an adult, can become pretty heavily, excessively, more than you want to be reliant on melatonin. So it can work for a season, but then it can make things worse on the other side of it, which is why I kind of liken it to a medication, because what do medications do? They force symptoms to get better, but make things worse within the internal mechanisms of the body. So they make actually healing from that challenge way, way harder downstream and later on. So quick recap: in order to really improve sleep, don't just try and hack it. Don't just try and, kind of fix it from the outside. You gotta heal sleep from the inside out. The body needs to be cleared of tension and subluxation and neurosensory motor dysfunction. If your child is always physically wound up, full of tension, running around, sensory seeking, you got to get into neurologically focused chiropractic. You got to get into neurologically focused PT, OT, fascial release, tissue work, somatic work. You got to get the body to relax, to get sleep, to turn on, be easy, be more effective, and be more high quality. On the inside of the body is another set of muscles called the gut and the digestive system. They get stuck and wound up and disrupt sleep if the nervous system's in sympathetic dominance and the vagus nerve is shut down too. So the first root cause solution, getting rid of sensory motor and subluxation and sympathetic dominance, will help digestion as well. If it doesn't get the gut all the way better on its own, then you go into food intolerances, food allergies, supplements, diet changes, detoxes, and we try and get the gut extra support and get the gut extra better in addition to nervous system regulation. You fix those two things. We'll call it, for today's episode in closing, you fix the body, the neuromotor system, and get the tension out of that. You fix the gut on the inside. The most natural, needed, absolutely must happen, and for the vast majority of cases will happen, effect of that is sleep will improve massively. The ability to fall asleep, the ability to stay asleep, and the ability to get good, full, restorative sleep will come back online for your child. And if they are struggling with autism or ADHD or anxiety, then healing that comes on the other side of sleeping, man, that's where it all begins. So that's where you want to focus the most first and really get that sleep online. And then you can expect all sorts of easier, better changes with other things that you want to attack and want to improve and want to get after once sleep is back online. Keep sending your questions in. Keep letting us know what you need to know and how different topics, different conversations, different symptoms, different conditions, different questions about whatever, anything within the whole pediatric, perinatal, family, parent, healthcare arena. You got questions. We got long-winded, neurologically focused, Iowa farmer, dad story, sarcasm infused answers right here on the Experience Miracles podcast. We'll see you on the next one. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. Do you have a question that you would like to submit? Either send it to support@pxdocs.com with the subject Ask Dr. Tony, or head on over to our socials @pxdocs, where you can submit your question in our stories every single week. Every kid counts and every family counts, so let's leave no questions left unanswered. If you loved this episode and you want to help us reach more kids, we would so appreciate if you left a review and a rating on your favorite platform. God bless, be well. We'll see you on the next one.